Emily had always loved her grandmother's house. It was big, old, and full of memories. After her grandmother passed away, Emily inherited the house. She didn't want to sell it, so she moved in. One day, while cleaning the attic, she found an old diary. It was dusty and looked very old. The leather cover was worn, and the pages were yellow. Curious, Emily opened the diary. The first page was dated many years ago. When her grandmother was young, she began to read. The diary belonged to her grandmother, and it told a story Emily had never heard before. As Emily read the pages, she learned something surprising. Her grandmother had once been in love with a man from a small town in Europe. His name was Thomas, and he was very mysterious. The diary said that they had met during a trip her grandmother took to Europe. When she was young, she had fallen in love with him, but their love was not easy. The pages of the diary told about secret meetings, long letters, and promises to meet again. But then, the diary ended suddenly. There were no more pages. Emily was confused. Why had her grandmother never told her about Thomas? What had happened to him? Emily was determined to find out the truth. She decided to travel to the small European town, where her grandmother had met Thomas. She packed her bags and bought a ticket for the next flight. The town was far away, but Emily felt a strange pull to go. She had to know what had happened. When she arrived in the town, it was as beautiful as she had imagined. Small streets, old buildings, and colorful flowers were everywhere. Emily went to the local library and asked about her grandmother and Thomas. The librarian smiled and said, "Ah, you must be talking about Thomas and his family. They were well known in this town many years ago." The librarian gave Emily a book about the history of the town. Emily opened it and found a picture of a man who looked just like the one in her grandmother's diary. His name was Thomas, and he had lived in the town many years ago. But the book also said something else. Thomas had disappeared without a trace. As Emily walked through the town, she felt like she was being watched. There was something strange about the town, but she couldn't figure out what. Then, one evening, she sat in a small cafe by the town square. She was reading the diary again when a man sat at the table next to hers. He looked at her and smiled. "I couldn't help but notice you're reading about my family," he said. His voice was calm and friendly. Emily looked up. The man was handsome, with dark hair and deep brown eyes. He looked familiar, but Emily couldn't place him. "I'm sorry, but I don't think I know you," she said. "My name is Lucas," he replied. "I'm the great-grandson of Thomas." Emily's heart skipped a beat. Thomas's great-grandson? She felt a strange connection to him. She had to know more. "Are you really Thomas's grandson?" she asked. "I've been reading about him in my grandmother's diary." Lucas smiled again. "Yes, I am. My family has told me stories about Thomas. He was a kind man, but he disappeared many years ago. We don't know what happened to him." Emily felt a shock. This was the man her grandmother had loved. The connection between them felt so strong, as if fate had brought them together. But there was also a feeling of sadness. She needed to know what had happened to Thomas. Lucas and Emily spent the next few days together. They visited old places that her grandmother had written about in the diary. They went to the lake where her grandmother had met Thomas, and they stood in the park where Thomas had once promised to return. As they walked through the town, Emily asked Lucas about his family. He told her that no one really talked about Thomas's disappearance. Everyone just accepted it as a mystery. But Lucas believed there was more to the story. One evening, they went to the old church where Thomas and her grandmother had spent time together. Inside, there was a small chapel with beautiful stained glass windows. Lucas showed Emily a hidden door in the back of the chapel. It led to a small room that had not been used in many years. This was Thomas's secret room, Lucas explained. He used to come here to think and write. Maybe we can find something that will explain what happened to him. They searched the room carefully. Dust covered the shelves, and old papers were scattered on the floor. Emily picked up a letter that looked important. It was written in her grandmother's handwriting. The letter was addressed to Thomas. It said, "Thomas, I don't know how much longer we can keep this secret. The world is changing, and I can't keep waiting. I hope you will come back to me soon. But I must move on if you do not." Emily felt tears in her eyes. Her grandmother had been waiting for Thomas, but something had happened to him. She had to make a choice, and she had moved on with her life. Lucas looked at the letter and sighed. "I never knew about this letter. It's like my great-grandfather disappeared without a trace. My family has always wondered if he left because of some problem or if something worse happened." Emily looked at Lucas, her heart heavy. But why did he leave? Why didn't he come back? Lucas shook his head. "I don't know, but I think we can find the answers together." They continued their search for more clues. As they went through old records in the town hall, they found an old newspaper article. It was about a man named Thomas who had been seen leaving the town in the middle of the night. The article said he had left because of a family secret that he could never share. "This is it," Emily said. "This is the secret." Lucas read the article carefully. "It seems that my great-grandfather had a past that he couldn't share with anyone. Maybe it was too painful for him." Emily nodded. "But what if the secret is what kept him from coming back to your grandmother?" They sat in silence, both of them thinking about what they had learned. Emily realized that even though the story was full of sadness and unanswered questions, it had also brought her closer to Lucas. They shared something now, a connection to the past and to each other. As the days passed, Emily and Lucas spent more time together. They talked about the past, the secrets, and what could have been. They also talked about their own lives and how the past had shaped them. They realized that while the past was important, the future was theirs to make. One evening, as they sat by the lake where her grandmother and Thomas had once met, Lucas turned to Emily. "Do you think that maybe We are meant to find each other? Emily looked at him, her heart beating faster. I think we are, she said. I think our meeting was not just by chance. They sat in silence, watching the sunset. The past and the present had come together in a way that neither of them had expected. Emily knew that no matter what happened, this journey had changed her life forever. She had found not only the truth about her grandmother's love, but also a new beginning with Lucas.